Aaron is a speech therapist at a public school, which basically means he spends his entire day surrounded by coughing kids, stacks of paperwork, and parents who either know everything or don't show up at all. And no, the kids aren't coughing because of speech issues. It's fall, it's cold, half the class is sick, and he shares a room with the school nurse, so someone's always sniffling 3 inches from his face. After school, he writes lesson plans and tries not to fall asleep face first in a bowl of microwave noodles. So when he says he ended up in the hospital from burnout, he doesn't mean it as a metaphor. He literally collapsed in the hallway at work while walking a 5-year-old to group therapy. One minute he was upright, the next he was in room 104, watching a nurse shake her head and say, "Sweetheart, if you don't stop, your body will stop you for you." Burnout, acute stress, dehydration, sleep deprivation, call it what you want. It wasn't dramatic. It was just him wearing someone else's hospital robe, smelling like broth, hands shaking, staring at his phone through watery eyes and realizing no one had reached out. No missed calls, no texts, not from his mom, not from his dad, definitely not from his brother, Matthew. He had even texted them from the ER. He'd kept it light, said, "Hey, just so you know, I'm in the hospital. I collapsed at school. Okay, they've got me on fluids, just tired. Love you guys." That's it, no drama. He figured someone would call or at least write "hang in there." The group chat stayed dead silent, like an abandoned bus station at night. 3 hours later, his phone buzzed. He actually got a little hopeful. Maybe mom? Maybe dad? Nope, just Matthew. A single sad face emoji and then, "Can you still pay the car thing?" "No, are you okay?" "No, that sounds scary." Just the car thing, like him collapsing in public, was some unfortunate hiccup in his monthly billing cycle. That's when it hit him, cold and fast, like someone cracked open his ribs and let the wind in. He wasn't a brother, he was a payment plan with a pulse. The thing is, you kind of know when you're being used, but until you say it out loud or admit it to yourself, you can still play pretend. He'd been pretending, and now he was lying in room 104, wide awake to it. He was done being the reliable one, the strong one, the one who holds it all together. He was done being the source. Later, the nurse came back and asked, "How's your pain?" Physically, maybe a 3 out of 10. Emotionally, somewhere around burn it all down. She left. He stared at the ceiling and started mentally tallying everything he'd canceled this past year. The beach weekend with his friends? Cancelled. Matthew needed help with rent. New tires for his car? Postponed. Mom called it another family financial emergency. The second job he picked up on weekends? That was to help cover the mortgage, their mortgage. He works weekends at a toy store in the mall. In December, if you've never stood behind a register while sugar-crazed kids scream and parents argue over a $3 discount, let him tell you, it's not relaxing. It's slow-motion emotional collapse. Not once did he stop and ask, "Why am I the only one working 2 jobs?" Matthew is 20, physically healthy, emotionally stable if you don't count his 4-night addiction and complete aversion to employment. He dropped out of college sophomore year, said it wasn't his path. Mom and dad just nodded like, "Sure, go find yourself." When Aaron was his age, he was working full-time while finishing grad school. But okay, Matthew needs time to discover his own path. Mom hasn't worked in about a decade. Says she has emotional sensitivity to toxic workplaces. Dad takes the occasional freelance gig, but mostly hangs out in the garage, fixing imaginary problems and ranting about the downfall of society. They're not disabled, they're not retired. They've just delegated life to Aaron, and he let them because he thought that's what good sons do. He closed his eyes and pictured his studio apartment, tiny couch, fridge that hums like an aircraft engine, cabinet full of instant noodles. They knew he was in the hospital. They just didn't care. He spent 3 days in the hospital, just lying there, and for the first time in years, he started to feel like a person again. Mentally, physically. No lesson prep, no tantrums, number 5-year-olds licking the carpet while he tries to explain what a syllable is, No constant pressure from their parents either. It was like someone cut the power and he finally stopped twitching. On the fourth day, a nurse came in with his discharge papers. She gave him that soft, tired smile he'd come to recognize and said, "Try to rest. No work for at least a week. Doctor's orders." He nodded. He didn't tell her he'd already gotten an email from his side job asking about a missed shift, or that he was still worrying whether he'd be able to afford the prescriptions they sent him home with. During those 3 days, his phone lit up with 11 messages from his family. Not a single one said, "How are you?" or "We're worried." Just reminders. That's $600 from Dad. Don't forget about the mortgage, and a few hours later, bill came in, due by Friday. From Mom, "There's a cute sweater on sale. Can you send me $50? And the next day, "Do you remember where you got that blender? Ours broke. Can you send a link?" From Matthew, a Venmo request that said, "Bless you, bro," and a laughing emoji. Then another, "You're not answering. You good? Just send it if you're busy," and a few more stickers. Memes. Actual memes. They knew he was in the hospital, and the only things they could think to message him about were bills, blenders, and sweaters. Plus one sad face emoji. He didn't cry. He laughed out loud in the hallway, one of those dry, cracking laughs that start deep in your chest and sound borderline unhinged. The nurse turned around to look. He waved her off. He didn't text back, didn't call, didn't try to explain or argue. Instead, he opened the Notes app on his phone and typed one sentence. "They don't love me. They depend on me." Then he curled up on the stiff hospital mattress and cried. Maybe from exhaustion, maybe from that sharp, aching grief you only feel when you realize something you've been hoping for your whole life, like a family who genuinely loves you, just doesn't exist and never did. That was the moment. The end. He made a decision. He came home, drained, bags under his eyes, a prescription bag in his hand, and a long list from the doctor of things he was absolutely not supposed to do. The fridge was humming like an old washing machine. Usually that drives him crazy, but that night the low, steady noise actually felt comforting because it was his, and unlike everything else, it didn't want anything from him. His phone, on the other hand, kept buzzing. Messages, bills, reminders. Business as usual. He made coffee, sat down by the window, and for the first time in what felt like forever, he just sat. Did nothing. Well, not nothing. His mind kept spinning. He started thinking about something his mom said to him when he was 10. Matthew had woken up in the middle of the night crying. Mom came into his room and said, "Aaron, honey, be a sweetheart and rock him for a bit. Mommy has a migraine, but you're the grown-up one. You've got this." He remembers feeling weirdly flattered. He was the grown-up one. He could handle it. That phrase stuck, became the soundtrack of his childhood. At 11, he was the one putting Matthew to bed every night. His parents would go run to the store or grab a quick dinner, which sometimes turned into midnight. Matthew would scream for Mom. He'd hold him in his pajamas, crying silently while trying to calm him down. But he was the grown-up, right? He'd handle it. By 13, he was picking Matthew up from daycare, bringing him home, making him mac and cheese because Mom's too drained and Dad's brain is fried from work. Matthew didn't have homework yet, but Aaron had to read to him. It's good for development. They called it helping, but helping is something you can say no to, and he never had that option. If he said, "I have homework," they'd go, "Your homework can wait. Matthew needs you. He only has us." But somehow he was always part of that us, never the kid who needed care too. He remembers being 14, invited to a friend's birthday. Bowling, pizza. He was so excited. His parents even said yes. Then that morning, Mom said, "Look at Matthew. He's running a fever. You wouldn't leave me alone with a sick child, would you?" And just like that, he stayed home. Later, he watched the birthday pictures go up online while Matthew yelled at him because the soup was too hot. It wasn't his fault. He was just a kid. But so was Aaron. No one seemed to notice. Trying to clear his head, he started cleaning his place, decluttering, and he found this old box of childhood stuff. Photos, drawings, some little things he'd saved. One photo stopped him cold. Him, 10 years old, kneeling on the kitchen floor with a rag in hand. He remembered that exact day. Mom said guests were coming. Matthew was napping, so you can't vacuum, you'll wake him. She went off to get ready. Dad was in the garage, and he was scrubbing the floors and socks, hands raw. You're the grown-up one. You understand. At one point, he even asked, why doesn't Matthew help clean? Mom blinked and said, he's a boy, and he's younger. Don't you get that? Years later, when Matthew dropped out of college, Aaron paid the rest of his dorm fees. Told them it was the last time. A month later, Mom texted, he wants to take a design course. It's only $300. Could you? And yeah, he paid that too. He kept telling himself this was temporary, that his parents were just tired, that they struggled with life, that they needed support, that if he just held everything together long enough, if he kept being helpful and selfless and kind, one day they'd finally say it, we're proud of you. They never did. What he got instead, you're working again. You're so strong. You've got stability. We don't. Things come easy for you. Matthew has it harder. Sometimes he tried to hint that he was tired, that it was getting to be too much, but every time, the conversation turned into the same predictable guilt trip. So what? You're just going to abandon us now? You're being dramatic. Ungrateful. That's what you are. We raised you and now you can't even help? So he'd shut up, follow, keep working. Until the hospital. Lying there, hooked up to N4, he realized something he hadn't let himself admit in years. He didn't have to carry all of this. He pulled out a notebook and started writing, just so he wouldn't forget. How much he sent them every month. What bills he covered. What things he bought. How many times he said no to himself, his life, his needs, just to keep them comfortable. By the time he finished that list, it hit him. He could have been living in a decent apartment. He could have taken a real vacation. He could have, he doesn't know, lived like an actual human being. Instead, he gave everything, and the only thing he got back was, can you send a little more? Not this time. He was done pretending they didn't know what they were doing, done letting them drain him like a bottomless ATM, and definitely done paying for Matthew's damn car. His phone kept buzzing nonstop. He finally picked it up. 23 unread messages. He took a deep breath and started reading. He hadn't replied, so the tone was shifting fast. At first, they were pretending to be concerned. Mom wrote, "Sweetheart, how are you? I'm worried. Please text me." Almost sweet, almost real. A few hours later, we got the electricity bill. Can you send the payment by Friday? Otherwise, we'll get charged a fee. There was maternal love, over in 2 texts. Matthew, as usual, went full drama mode. Aaron? Hello? You alive? Then right after, if you died, could you still cover my car payment? Oh, and then, no, seriously, I need it by the day after tomorrow. About half an hour later, a short, irritated one from Dad. Aaron, where are you? Your mother's worried. Don't you have any decency? He stopped reading after that. Had to protect his sanity. Turned the phone off and tried to sleep. Didn't go well. His thoughts kept him up, heavy, sad, spinning in circles. He woke up with a splitting headache and eyes that felt like sandpaper. Just stared at the dark screen of his phone, sitting silent all night. Eventually, he turned it on, just in case something was urgent. It rang immediately, loud and demanding. He didn't answer. A few seconds passed. It rang again, and again, and again. They hadn't cared about him when he was in an actual hospital. They hadn't cared when he texted, "I'm on 4 fluids." But now? Now that he'd gone silent? Now they were panicking because silence was dangerous. Silence meant risk. Silence meant the source might finally dry up. The calls started alternating with texts. The last one from Dad read, Aaron, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you responding? You didn't forget the mortgage, did you? It's due on Thursday. And that was the moment he finally did what he should have done a long time ago. He sat down and texted Dad, short and to the point. I can't help this month. I've got my own expenses. 30 seconds later, scene. Then silence. Long, pregnant silence. And then, boom, the flood. What do you mean you can't? It's just one transfer. You know how hard things are for us. You're abandoning your family. We were counting on you. Well, selfish much? Don't you remember everything we've done for you? He read each one and felt something hardening inside him, like he'd been soft clay for years, moldable, warm, helpful, and suddenly he was concrete. Poke, solid, unbreakable. He didn't cry, not anymore. He just knew he wasn't on their leash anymore. Typed out a final reply, I don't owe you, and hit send. Then he turned off his phone. No drama, no explosions. Just off. He grabbed his coat and walked outside. No plan, no destination. Just air. Eventually, he ended up at a little home goods shop near his apartment, one of those places he always walked past thinking later. After payday. After he covers their bills. After Matthew gets his life together. After. But this time, no later. He picked up a big ceramic mug. Deep green, thick-walled, with a golden rim. Heavy in his hands. Saw it, and he thought, I deserve to drink from a good mug. Not a chipped one from my parents' kitchen. Not some giveaway from a conference. A real mug for me because I want it. Then he walked into a jewelry store. Simple silver earrings. No gems, no flash, just clean lines. He put them on, and for the first time in a long time, he felt pretty. Not for anyone else. Just for himself. It wasn't retail therapy. It wasn't revenge shopping. It was a homecoming to himself. When he got back, he turned his phone back on. He finally felt ready to look at the new messages. 22 missed calls. 8 voicemails. Emails. Guilt trips. Threats. Jokes that weren't funny. Pressure dressed up as concern. Dad, you have no idea what this is doing to us. Mom, I thought you were better than this. I was wrong. Matthew just sent one message. Wow, seriously? You're really cutting us off. He sat down at the kitchen table, pulled out his notebook, and opened to that page. The one with all the numbers. Everything he'd paid, when, for what, and for whom. Mortgage for his parents. Utilities. Insurance. Matthew's car. His online courses. Holiday gifts. Dinners. Their emergencies. He totaled it all again. Over the past 3 years, he could have bought a used car or put a down payment on a place of his own. And then, at the bottom of the list, he wrote, starting this month, $0. Big, bold, period. Then he exhaled. After all those calls and messages he ignored, there was finally silence. For 2 whole days, his phone didn't buzz once. No reminders about bills. No passive-aggressive texts. No sticker spam in the family group chat. Just peace. And honestly, it was glorious. He even started wondering, maybe they got it. Maybe they finally understood. Maybe they were giving him space. Yeah, right. On day 3, his dad called. He never calls. Usually, it's just quick texts, no fluff. But this time, ringing. He didn't pick up. 10 seconds later, a message popped up. Pick up. Urgent. Mom's not well. His stomach dropped. The phone rang again. He answered. Aaron, finally, his dad said, voice shaky. I don't know how to tell you this. Your mom had a bad episode this morning. We called an ambulance. The doctor said it was stress-related. Her blood pressure spiked. Her heart. She could barely breathe. We were terrified. He stayed quiet. This is because of you, his dad added more quietly. She's been so worried. You disappeared. You weren't answering. We didn't know what was going on. She thought she lost you. That you walked away from us. We all love you so much. He wanted to say, "Where were you when I was in the hospital?" But his dad didn't give him the chance. "She's still not doing well," he whispered. "She's pale. Says her chest hurts. I don't know if you want to see her alive. Please come. Tell her you're not mad. Tell her you haven't left." Then he hung up. He dropped the phone on the bed and started throwing clothes on. His head was spinning. That phrase rang in his ears, "If you want to see her alive." Mom had always been the fragile one. Always something. Blood pressure. Migraines. Mysterious symptoms. And he always believed her. What if this time it's real? Hospital? Home? He didn't ask. He just drove. They met him at the door. Dad opened it himself like he'd been waiting. Mom was in bed, in a dim room with the curtains drawn. It smelled like medicine and something sour. She looked tired, small, like she'd been through something. Barely speaking, Matthew sat at the edge of the bed. Quiet. Serious. Playing the doting son. Mom looked up and whispered, "Aaron, I'm so glad you came." He sat next to her and held her hand. His eyes burned. Because no matter what, she's still his mom, and she looked like something had really happened. She whispered, "I got so scared. I had a dream that you left us." He didn't say anything. "I'm sorry if we were unfair to you," she said. "It wasn't out of malice. We love you so much." When you stopped responding, it was terrifying. It all seemed so believable. Too believable. He started second-guessing everything. Maybe he had overreacted. For the next few days, he came over every evening. Helped around the house. Bought groceries. Mom stayed in bed, and everyone spoke in hushed tones. Sometimes she got up, but not for long. Said she felt dizzy. He bought her a new blanket. Soft, gray, like a cloud. Something cozy. Something nice. Then he ordered her fluffy slippers. He wanted to take care of her, do something kind. No one asked about money, but Mom did mention offhand, "The new meds are expensive. Insurance doesn't cover all of it, but it's fine. We'll manage." He sent $120 for the medication. Dad said, "Thank you. Hopefully she gets better soon." A few days later, the washing machine broke. Mom said, barely above a whisper, "I don't know how we're going to do laundry now." So he sent $400 for a new one. Just like that, he was back in his old role. Supportive. Convenient. Everything felt almost normal again. Just quieter, more tense. Then one evening, as he was doing the dishes in their kitchen, he couldn't hold it in anymore. "Why didn't you come when I was in the hospital?" he asked. "You didn't even text." He waited. Mom looked down, didn't say a word. Dad stepped into the room. "I twisted my ankle," he said. "Really bad. Couldn't walk. And your mom couldn't leave me alone. We were worried, truly. It was just the situation. You understand, right?" Yeah, he understood. He'd been understanding his whole life. And the next day, everything fell apart. He stopped by the bakery near his apartment to grab some rolls. On the way out, he ran into Mrs. Parker, his parents' upstairs neighbor. Mom used to chat with her all the time. She smiled at him, just like always. Started small talk. He smiled back, nodded politely. Then she asked, "So, how's your mom doing?" He said, "She's doing better," with a soft smile. She raised an eyebrow. "Oh, was she sick?" "I hope it wasn't anything serious," she went on before he could answer. "Funny though. I saw her just last Friday. She looked great, all bright and chipper. We ran into each other by the makeup aisle. I asked if she had a special occasion, and she just laughed and said, 'Finally a day off for myself.' And now she's sick." He blinked. "Friday?" he asked. "Evening." "Yep, around 6 o'clock. The place was packed. Friday. The very same Friday she supposedly had a severe episode. The day he rushed to their house and sat by her bed while she clutched her chest and whispered like she was on her deathbed. Weak. Barely speaking. He left around 5. She got up, changed, and went shopping. In a daze, he drove straight to his parents' place. Maybe Mrs. Parker got the day wrong. Maybe she confused his mom with someone else. Maybe it was all just a coincidence. They couldn't have actually done something so low, so manipulative. He showed up like normal. Didn't say a word. Acted like everything was fine. That evening, while he was putting away dishes in the kitchen, he heard Matthew talking on the phone in his room. Phew, that was close. I really thought she was going to cut us off, he laughed. But nope, she came back. Mom should have gone into acting. Seriously, even I believed her. We pulled it off like a movie. He stopped. Just stood there in the hallway, listening to his brother, the same one he rocked to sleep as a baby, mocking him, laughing about how easy it was to reel him back in. Dead fish. All of them in on it. A performance. A setup. Him back in his usual role. Provider. Fixer. The good son with the open wallet. Matthew must have felt his stare. He turned and saw him standing in the hallway. His face flushed. Aaron, he mumbled. What's up? He looked at him. Didn't say a word. There was nothing left to say. He walked past him, grabbed his bag, pulled on his coat. Tell Mom and Dad, he said calmly, they really sold it. Great job. Then he opened the door and left. Outside, it was freezing. Windy. Maybe even raining. He doesn't remember. He didn't feel any of it. He wasn't crying. Something inside him had finally gone quiet. Something else had finally woken up. It's been 6 months. He's got a new apartment now. Small, but it has windows that look out onto the park. In the morning, he hears birds. In the evening, he catches the smell of fresh coffee from the bakery downstairs. Sometimes he wakes up and can't quite place what he's feeling. This strange lightness. This calm, even breathing. Then he remembers. It's peace. He doesn't owe anyone anything anymore. He lives his life. He doesn't work weekends. He has hobbies again. He reads real books now, not worksheets, not therapy guides. Actual novels. He joined a pool. Bought himself a new couch, not because it was on sale, but because it was soft and beautiful. For Christmas, he went to Seattle, just because he wanted to. He doesn't have a family anymore, but he has himself. And as it turns out, that's more than enough. He also has friends now. The real kind. The ones who didn't judge, didn't guilt-trip him, didn't hit him with a well. Maybe it's more complicated than that. They drink coffee together. Text at night. Sometimes sit in silence, and it's enough. They don't demand, don't manipulate, don't keep score. And his family? Well, let's just say cutting off the money supply triggered a mild apocalypse. Matthew, poor thing, had to say goodbye to his car. The bank repossessed it when they realized he had neither a job nor a brain. He still hasn't found his path, by the way. His dad's freelance projects magically vanished. Turns out he'd just been watching YouTube in the garage this whole time. He guesses the universe finally got tired of pretending that counted as work. And his mom? She made a brave return from her decade-long sabbatical of being too emotionally sensitive for office environments and marched herself down to the employment office. Last he heard, she's still looking for a job that lets her sleep in and be surrounded by only kind people. They had to sell the house. Couldn't afford the mortgage. Now, they all live together in a cramped one-bedroom on the other side of town. Rumor has it they still talk about his betrayal at dinner. Apologize? Of course not. That would require self-awareness. Much easier to paint him as the ungrateful son who destroyed their cozy little setup. They even tried rallying extended family. Sent out their little PR campaign. Emails, calls, dramatic sob stories. She abandoned her mother, who nearly died of heartbreak. After everything we've done for him. I thought Aaron was the responsible one. Turns out he's just selfish. He got texts and calls from cousins he hasn't spoken to in years. Great aunts. Random relatives who barely remembered his birthday. How could you do this to your mom? Did you really walk out on your parents like that? I always thought you were the mature one. I guess we were wrong. Each message was like a tiny splinter under his skin. First, he ignored them. And then he got mad. Not meltdown mad, not post-rant online mad. Strategic mad. He opened Google Drive, made a folder, named it for everyone who's concerned. Inside, he uploaded his bank statements from the last 3 years. Screenshots of transfers to mom, to dad, to Matthew. Screenshots of text messages. Mom saying, "You don't want us sitting in the dark, do you?" Matthew begging, "If you don't help, I'll get kicked out." Dad reminding him mortgage is due soon. He added one special file, a message from his mom thanking him for covering Matthew's therapy course, which turned out to be a subscription to some online gaming platform. Then he sent the folder to everyone who came at him. No drama, no insults. Just a line that said, "Before you judge, here's a bit of what was happening behind the scenes." Some people apologized. Some disappeared. A few doubled down with the classic, "But they're your family. You can't just walk away from family." Yeah, well, turns out family isn't the people who gave birth to you. It's the people who don't treat you like a human battery pack for their life. He's not bitter. He's not broken. He's healing. Because sometimes the only way to become yourself is to break free from the role they shoved you into as a kid. Hi besties, thank you so much for watching to the end. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye.